What's up, my fellow nerd and nerdettes? It's Thraps here, and I want to give my thoughts on a review of Diablo 4 on the first week. All right. So a bit of my backstory is I'm a World of Warcraft player. I've played since vanilla, and I've got around about 25 to 30,000, somewhere within that bracket, around 25 to 30,000 hours in World of Warcraft. So I'm very experienced on the MMO scene. I've played other MMOs. I think my first MMO was a game called Myth of Soma, which probably hardly anyone will have ever heard of. I believe it was an old Italian MMO back in, like, when was that? 2000, 2001, something like that. 2002 maybe. Anyway, so I started off with progressed to World of Warcraft in vanilla around 2004, 2005-ish. Played ever since. I only play on the hardest difficulty, so back then it was heroic, and obviously now mythic. And I've played from hardcore, server first, playing in the world 100, 200 bracket, and then now I've still read mythic, but it's not on some sort of hardcore level. We achieve cutting edge, but on a significantly longer time scale. So I've my experience is pretty vast in gaming. When it comes to playing at the highest difficulty, I don't want to play on anything lower than the hardest difficulty. I just don't see the point. It's just a pointless endeavor, in my mind, anyway. So that's where I'm at. I've never been into the ARPG genre at all. I have played a tiny bit of D3. So in D3, all my friends were playing it for ages when it first came out. I didn't pick it up till Reaper of Souls. When Reaper of Souls came out, I still didn't play it for a little bit. They convinced me to go in the game. They boosted me to whatever level it was. Was it 70 or something? I can't even remember. Which took like an hour or something. Or maybe even less. I can't even remember. They boosted me all the way to the top. I went into a couple of dungeons and I was like, no, can't do this. So I played for like half a day or something. And then just didn't bother. Now I played Lost Ark. And that's not an ARPG. It's an ARPG style game, but it's an MMO, right? But it has very significant similarities to, like, say, what Diablo 3 was. So, like, in Diablo 3, I think you had the Greater Rifts or the Rifts system or whatever it was. And Lost Ark was very same. You went to town, you queued up for a dungeon in town, you went and did the dungeon or the tower or whatever. And the itemization and the way systems work is very similar to Diablo. So that I've got about maybe 100, 150 hours in Lost Ark. Got to tier 3, and then the game it was like, it's wasting my time. The game was annoying. And it's not that I don't like grinding in games. It is just Lost Ark is annoying. And it's very cumbersome and clunky. Now, don't get me wrong, the combat is amazing in Lost Ark. It's like Blizzard games. Blizzard are known for having amazing combat. And Lost Ark was no different. I don't know. I don't want to say if it was better than Blizzard's combat, but it was on par for sure. Maybe a little better, not quite sure. But it was on par. So it was very good combat. But the way the game was, or is, probably still is today. I ain't logged on it for since the first month or second month of launch of Lost Ark. I ain't logged in since then. Like I said, got to tier 3, the game got really annoying, so I just left it. So even though I know it's not an ARPG, it's an ARPG style game, right? With the isometric camera, the way the stats work, the itemization is very similar to an ARPG. You know, the systems are very similar, but the world itself is not an ARPG style, right? Because it's an MMO. It's a living, breathing world in Lost Ark. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm an ARPG noob, basically. All right. And looking through YouTube, you see all these reviews about Diablo 4 is this, that, and the other, and it's like comparing it to Path of Exile, which I have no idea what that's like. Never played it, never will. People saying it's bad, some people saying it's good, and I'm like, well, but these are all from hardcore players, right? Who are hardcore ARPG players. Now, there's no reviews from a casual or new ARPG player. So I consider myself a new ARPG player. In fact, I don't even consider myself an ARPG player. I thought I would try D4, see what it's all about, see if I can get into the game, into its systems and its mechanics and the way that the game works, and see if I can figure it out, you know, see if it's intuitive enough to learn and understand and follow along, and then give my opinions based on that. So let's start from the beginning. The cost. All right, it's an expensive game, let's be real. However, I do believe it's good value for money. So far, I started in the early access, and because I bought, not going to lie, I bought the Ultimate Edition. You know, if I'm going to play a game and I'm going to commit to a game, you know, I'm going to buy the top tier. Right? It's entertainment, you know, and I'm going to get the top tier game. I ain't going to mince about buying the normal version or the digital deluxe or the, you know, or anything in between. I'll just go for the top one and everything that comes along with it, you know, and then we'll assess whether it's value for money afterwards. So the early access started on a Thursday night in the UK, you know, around 11 midnight or something. I was still at work. I'm at work now, you know, so I couldn't play on exact of launch. I got home about 4 or 5 hours after launch, logged in, not a problem, no issues whatsoever, straight into the game, and I was off work that next day on the Friday, so I was free to stay up after work and blast the game as much as I want all weekend, which is what I did. So I got into the game, no problem, playing along. Visually, the game is stunning. It's one of the best looking video games I've played ever. You know, it's amazing. The graphics are spot on. And the cinematics, holy shit. They're out of this world. Blizzard cinematics are generally top notch anyway, but these, oh yeah, these blew me away, these cinematics. But that's like nothing new to everyone else, right? Everybody's reported on that numerous times over the last week or so, or maybe even longer back into beta. Beta I didn't play, by the way. I played for about maybe 3 hours, got to like level 10, and then I thought, no, I'm going to put this down because I'm going to play this properly later, and I don't want to ruin my enjoyment of the game and getting into D4. All right, so I stopped it there, and then I, you know, didn't consume really any content on D4. I just waited it to come out because I wanted the experience to see if I could branch out from World of Warcraft and go into another game, but not play it as hardcore as I do in World of Warcraft. So anyway, I'm digressing there. So the visuals, we've covered the visuals. Stunning, cinematics, amazing, blah, 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 usual Blizzard stuff, which is top notch. I was talking about cost when I'm sorry, I'm a bit all over the place here, but it's you know, like I'm not a professional reviewer, so I'll just give the review how the thoughts come into my head. So on to the cost. Yes, it is expensive, but the way I see it is, over the weekend I played from Friday morning, from like 5 o'clock in the morning, all the way till I started work. Obviously I slept in between, you know, like 6-7 hours in between. I'd go to sleep, get up, play more D4. But I had the feeling that D4 wanted me to log in. I wanted to log into the game. I was not bored with it, even though it is a new game and you have new game syndrome, you know, like where you start a new game, you're really into it, this, that, and the other. But the pull the game had for me was even more so than what it normally is for a new game. So this is a game that makes me want to waste my time. You know, that's a sign of a good game, right? When a game wants you to make you waste your time. Well, it's not wasting your time, but you get what I'm saying here, right? It makes you want to just throw all your hours into the game. And that's what D4 did for me all weekend. Still does now. So I played that all weekend. And the way I see about the cost is, yes, it cost what? $79.99 for the top edition. In British pounds, that is. That's probably, what, $100 or something. So that's... if I was to go out all weekend and entertain myself, like going to the movies, going to a theme park, doing activities like maybe shooting or, you know, whatever it is, I'm going to spend way more than £90 all weekend to entertain myself for the amount of time that D4 has already done already. So in that perspective, it was an absolute worth the money that we've paid for it. Yes, it is expensive for a game, but the amount of hours of entertainment it's provided already and subsequent hours that it's going to provide is well worth the amount you pay for the game, regardless of whether you get the base version, the middle version, or the top version. There's no actual difference to the game, but you know, the perks and extras like the battle pass and stuff you get with it, or whatever, or the cosmetics, you know, doesn't matter. It's well worth the money for the entertainment and the amount of hours you're going to put into it. All right, so starting out in the journey, I completed the campaign, loved the campaign, and I'm not a story guy. Like in World of Warcraft, when cinematics come, I couldn't give a fuck about cinematics. I just fucking skip them. Like, I couldn't care less about lore. But in D4, from the very first moment when you see yourself in the village and you're on the cart getting brought in, and you know, then you get ambushed in the shed, and then Loroth helps you to escape and stuff like that. You know, it captured me, and I carried on watching the story throughout the leveling process, or the early leveling process of the campaign. And I found myself enthralled in the story, and the story was great. The thing that really blew me away was the voice acting and the theatrics of the story. Like the music would get louder on intense moments and get a lot more somber on sadder moments and things like that, and then you'd get an overwhelming sense of like audio, but it wouldn't overwhelm you. It would, but it wouldn't, because it's the intenseness of the cinematic as well, in combination with the overload of audio, depending where you are in the story, you know, that made it an absolute experience and a joy to watch, basically, because that's what it was. Like there was more watching of cinematics and interacting with NPCs than there was gameplay, really. And I found myself doing a lot more side quests than what I would normally do in a game, because every side quest was voice acted. Like, that's mind-boggling to me, that the level of polish Blizzard had put into D4, especially with the problems they've had of late, where, you know, games have released, especially World of Warcraft, over the last six years or so, has been absolutely shite, absolutely terrible. The level of polish has been terrible, but the level of polish D4 has received is unreal. And then when I completed the campaign and the credits roll up, I think I was around level 41, 42 or something. I don't know if that's high or low or just regular, you know, when finishing the campaign. But I couldn't do the capstone dungeon because that's up at 50, right? So I presume I've finished the campaign a little earlier than intended. Anyway, so when the credits were rolling, I thought, I'll watch this for a bit. 10 minutes I was sat there watching it, and it was still going on the credits. The amount of people that worked on D4 is unreal. So the level of polish that they've achieved is pretty evident by how many people have actually worked on the game, which is good to see. And it's nice to have a Blizzard product that actually, you know, makes you feel like you've spent your money wisely in a video game, and that's what D4 has done. The when I also started, I turned on all the tutorials. Because like I say, I've never been an ARPG person. So I wanted the game to teach me, for good or bad, because like Blizzard can be bad at showing you how their game works, right? I'll reference World of Warcraft again. When you log in, there's not really much tutorial on how to, for a new player that is. I mean, I've played it since vanilla, so I know how it works. But for a new player, like, you know, the game doesn't really teach you or get you up to speed on all them years of experience that I've already got. For a new player, it's probably an overwhelming game. And for an ARPG, that's where I'm coming from, right? I have no idea on how ARPGs really work. So all the systems may be simple, but someone coming into an ARPG genre with zero experience of them is, you know, kind of overwhelming, because you've got to ditch what you know about an MMO and get your mind around how an ARPG works and how it's itemized and mechanics and things like that. So I went in and I turned on all the tutorials. I thought, let's put it to the test. Let's see how far I get before I have to start looking up guides on YouTube. And I've got to say, I have not had to look up one thing on YouTube on how to do something. The tutorials that pop up were very simple to understand. They were to the point, and you know, there was no way of not understanding what they wanted you to do or how the system worked. So that was good, you know. And I got all the way up to the capstone dungeon after the campaign. I did attempt it at like level 45, and I got the boss to like 10% HP, and I just couldn't finish it off for that last 10%. This was on World Tier 2. Like, I never started at World Tier 1. It was just World Tier 2 all the way for me, which might have been a mistake being a new player in these type of games. But, you know, like I said earlier, I don't play at the lowest difficulty. Like, if I want to play a game, I want to play at the highest difficulty, because the higher the difficulty, the more of a learning curve you have and becoming better at the game later on. All right, so that's why I started. And let's be fair, World Tier 2 is not difficult, not even for a new player. It's if you've got a basic understanding of video games on playing, and it's your main hobby, you know, World Tier 2 is not difficult at all. Let's be serious. And so that was it. And I attempted it around level 45. I got the boss to like 10%, and I just couldn't finish off the last 10% because it is in D4. I found that for every 25% or 33% you would knock off, because the boss either goes into like 4 tiers, right? So every 25% they'll drop the health potions to help you out, or some bosses just have the 3 stages, so 66% and 33%, and they'll only drop 2 sets of potions opposed to the 3 sets of potions on other bosses. So whichever one you get. Anyway, yeah, I couldn't finish off that last 10% because when you get into the last stage, the boss just throws out whatever mechanics he's done in the other previous phases. He just throws them out like a machine gun in the last phase. And you've just got to, like every other previous phase, builds you up to that last phase to where you should be good at avoiding all the mechanics in the last phase, but at a very higher pace. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't survive. I think I was just a lot, because let's be fair, the capstone dungeon, the first one you have to do after the campaign, is level 15. It doesn't scale down, right? I didn't know that at the time, but I do now, whereas it didn't scale down. So I had to do a few more levels, you know, do a bit more level grinding, whether it was like dungeons or the Whispering Tree and things like that. And I got to like level 48, and I thought, let's give the capstone dungeon another try. I thought maybe I'm still a bit too low level, but I went in and I didn't absolutely crush the dungeon, but it was doable. I didn't die, and I breezed through it quite easily in the capstone dungeon to open up endgame. So that was good, and you know, it was a good experience. The one thing, moving on, the one thing that I never did was look up builds prior to playing. So I went in playing a barbarian, right? I'm a bloke, I'm a man's man. You know, I'm going to play a big beefy guy with a big fuck off sword. That's just the way it is. You know, people who want to play like fairies, be a bear or a wolf or some fucking, I don't know, magic throwing fucking wombat, you know, that's their own prerogative. But I'm a bloke, I'm going to play a big beefy barbarian with a big fucking sword, axe or mace. You know, I'm going to smash fucking skulls. And that's and that's just the way it is. So I'm playing the barb, and didn't look up any builds prior, and what I wanted to do was not get bogged down with this is the best build in the game. You know, like on YouTube, you see it everywhere right now. Right, this is the best build for barb, best build. This is the best class in the game. But the problem is on YouTube, right? You say this is the best class in the game, but you see that for barb, you see that for sorcerer, and you see that for rogue, right? So which one's right? Because they're not all fucking correct, are they? Right. So anyway, I went in and just think, right, I'm going to try and build my own build, which I knew going into would be probably 99% a big mistake, right? Because I'm going to throw points in the talent tree here, there, and everywhere. Not really synergize with the systems in the game. But quite surprisingly, the talent tree was very easy to read. It's a very linear talent tree. You can't really go wrong. You start at the top, you pick, for a barb, for example, you either pick Frenzy, Lunging Strike, or whatever the other fucking ones are, I can't remember. And then once you've done that, you spend your points, you get a little red line, and you go down to the next lot of skills, which is your core skills, right? So you got you start off with your basic skills, and you got your core skills, and then you pick them, and then you go down to your mastery, and then your ultimate, and then, you know, the one down at the bottom, I forget that you can only pick one of, can't remember what you call them. Anyway, so the tree is very linear, and then there's like branches off of little things that maybe increase your critical strike damage, your healing, your defensives, slows, you know, that type of thing. Lots of utility and a lot of combat enhancing other little talent points. Now, I call them little talent points, but they're not, but they're actually quite huge, as I found out when making my build. So when I made my build, like browsing over YouTube, I could see Whirlwind Barbarian was like the thing to play, but I didn't want to go with what everyone was going with. I wanted to go with whatever I felt looked good on the tree, but then pick talents around that made sense. So I went with a rend build, and I was picking my talents, and my build works. You know, I don't die a whole lot. I kill enemies efficiently, and you know, I can get things done. Now, is it probably the most optimal build? Probably not. I don't actually know if it is or if it isn't for the Ren build anyway, if it's an optimal build, but I ain't dying, and I'm killing and I'm getting through dungeons no problem, because I'm at world tier 3 now, and I ain't dying in dungeons. I'm clearing things easily, even the hell thingy events, I forget what it's called. You know, where you collect the essences, then you go open the chest for a reward, or the whispering tree stuff. None of that's hard. I go into dungeons or cellars. That's all pretty straightforward at world tier 3. Because I've not quite reached tier 4 yet. I think that's in the 70s or whatever. So I'm still in world tier 3 at the moment, and you know, like, nothing's killing me. Dungeons are easy clearable. You know, it's not a problem. So is my build the optimal build? I don't know. It's probably not. But what I did do with my build was I went in with a strategy. Defense is the best form of offense, right? So if I can stay alive, then that's half of the battle won. If they're not killing me, then I've got a fighting chance to complete the dungeon. The second problem after that was sustaining, right? So once you are able to stay alive, you need to be able to maintain your life, right? Because even with the best defense, if you're not able to sustain your health or your offensive resource, so in terms of Barbarian Fury, you know, you might not be dying, but if it's going to take you an hour to kill a boss, it's not exactly efficient, is it? It's a pointless endeavor. So I went in there with a strong mind on being very tanky, not being able to be killed easily, but also sustaining my HP, so make sure that I had enough health regeneration, but more importantly, enough resource generation. And this was my WoW experience, you know, like kicking in, knowing that you need resources to be offensive. And then the last bit was balancing my offensive capabilities with my defensive capabilities. So at the start, I think I went a bit overboard on being too defensive, and then I was able to take talent points out of the little boxes, you know, around the talent tree, and then enhance it in other places to make my offensive capabilities a lot higher. And then obviously with the gearing system and the itemization, I was able to further optimize my offensive and defensive capabilities a lot more using that. And using the gear was not very overwhelming, to be fair. I thought it would be. But you have a vast amount of legendaries with what they called aspects, right? So your aspects is the abilities you get on your legendaries, and then you've got like the rare and magic items. I think magic's the blue and rare's the yellow items. Now the yellow items are not really too much different from the legendaries. The legendaries just come usually with an extra stat and a legendary power attached to it, right? Which you can take off via the other systems. I'm not going to go into the other systems because, like, most people know how all that works now anyway. But when you attain a certain amount of legendaries and powers, you're able to, you know, like, take a bit of time, look through them all, and you can actually see that, you know, certain powers synergize with other ones in the gearing system. But then that also synergizes with the talent tree. No different to any other MMO out there. You know, so these things, it was very easy to understand and easy to put a build together myself without looking at a YouTube video and, you know, like going on one of these, oh, this is the best build for what, blah blah blah. You know, I wanted to try it myself and see if I got stuck to a point where is the game too complicated or is it too simple. Now I don't think the game's too simple, and I don't think it's too complicated. I think It's got a, for a player like me, right, who's just a new to the ARPG genre, but who's got a wealth of experience in MMOs. It was that the game has hit spot on. It's absolutely bang on with where it needs to be for a new player coming into this genre to be. And you know, I was quite surprised. Like I said, I had never had any problems with the help of the tutorial system, of course, like of direction that I needed to go in, knowing what the MSQ was and the priority quests. So like the MSQ is the yellow symbol and the quest is, and the priority is the little white symboled quest icons. And that was very easy to understand, because when you pick up a quest, you hover over it, whether it's blue, yellow or white, it tells you whether it's a side quest, a priority quest, or a story quest, campaign quest, right? So you can't really go wrong if you open your eyes on the UI. Now the UI is where it falls down a little bit. The basic UI for the actual game itself, for the combat, I've watched videos, reviews given where it's like, oh, the UI is terrible, it's lackluster. It's not. The UI is fine. It's a 6 ability UI, right? And it's got a health bar and it's got a resource bar. What else do you fucking want out of a UI? That is it. It's simple. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be like all this grandiose thing. Like I mean, it looks, people say it looks terrible. It looks great. It's fine. It fits in with the theme of the game. You know, the actual base UI screen when you're in combat or just moving around the world is more than adequate for the game. It's not a deal breaker. It's not bad. All right, it's not great, but it's not bad either. It's fine. It works. I'm not unhappy with the UI. The bit of the UI that I find annoying, shall we say, is the bags. You don't get enough bag space. Gems take up the same space in the bags as gear, which I find a bit weird, because you have like an elixir tab, you have a quest tab, you have an aspect tab for when you go through the aspect system and take aspects from a legendary, destroy the legendary, but keep the aspect so you can put it on gear later. You know, you have a separate tab for that. But why is there not a separate gem tab? It makes no sense to me. Right? So, you know, that's one thing that is annoying, you know, is just put a fucking gem tab into the bag system. It's fucking common sense, right? But hopefully that gets fixed over time. But it is what it is. The other thing that's very cumbersome in the UI is when you're collecting your legendaries, because you need to collect them, right? So you can take the powers you want and make the build on the piece, on the gear that you want to enhance for the build that you want to make. So in my case, the Ren build. So you want to collect all these different legendaries, because when you drop them, they roll certain stats, and they can be higher or lower than, it could be the same power, but be a higher or lower roll in how that effect gives you more power or less power in the same effect. But the thing is, when you open your UI, so you go to your stash, which is your bank, basically, you throw all them legendaries in there for safekeeping, and you want to find a certain power, why is there no filter button? So like all it requires in the stash or even in your bag, right? Because like in the bag you can carry what, 30 or so items, I think it is. If you've got a bunch of legendaries in there, or in your bank you've got like, each tab in your bank holds 50 items, right? And you can have multiple tabs. If they're all full of legendaries and you want to find a certain power, why can't you just hit a filter tab and then put the name of the legendary aspect in and find it like that, instead of having to hover over every single fucking piece of equipment and read, you know, the text? Because the tooltips are not small. So you've got to read every single one to find the one that you want. You know, it's tiring and annoying. But that's my only gripe with the game, really, is it needs a filter system in the bags. That's it. The rest of the game is spot on. Now, I've watched a couple of reviews where people are like, who play it hardcore, right? And they're like, level 100 already, you know, and there's not really much else for them to do. You know, I don't think that game's made for them people. I really don't. I think D4 is aimed at people like me, you know, like, who just wants to, who works a 9-to-5 job. Right, I don't work 9-to-5, I work nights, but it's still a 9-to-5 job in essence, right? So I go to work, I come home, I've 3-4 hours during the week of playtime each day. So I'll come home, I'll play games for 3 or 4 hours, but the bulk of my gaming comes on the weekend, right? So I can game all Saturday, Sunday if I want, Friday as well. So during the week, I think D4 is aimed at a player like me, where you go to work, you come home, you can spend a couple of hours in there, come off, and you feel like you've actually got something done in the game. You don't feel like you've wasted your time. Like, the world is that big. But even though the world is that big, it's got things everywhere to do. So whether you are discovering altars of Lilith, like, there's 30 to 40 of them in every zone. But every time you find one, your character gets stronger. It gives you stats. But the thing is, them stats carry over to your alts. So once you've found them once on your main character, if you roll an alt, all the power gains from the altars of Lilith transfers over to them. How amazing is that? You know, so there's a lot of things to discover. The side quests, you know, the Tree of Whispers. The Tree of Whispers takes you all over the map. You know, the Hellfire events, or whatever they're called. You know, that's a great thing to do. You know, and when you're just travelling around the world, and of which travelling around the world is so easy, there is that many waypoints, you know, in each zone. You can freely get about the world, combined with your mount. Anybody who tells you that the world is too big and it's annoying to get to dungeons is fucking lying to you. I swear to God. Like, you can get to any waypoint and then be within a minute get to any dungeon. Two minutes at the most. Yeah, right? So getting around the world is vast, but getting around it is not an issue at all. Not a problem. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, that's I've got no complaints with D4 at all. It makes me want to log in, and I'm logging into World of Warcraft less and less because of it. So, you know, it's a sign of a great game, right? You know, D4 has captured my imagination to the ARPG genre. You know, no longer will I think, oh, maybe they're too complicated, or this, that, and the other. Maybe I will give Path of Exile a whirl at some point. Now, I know from many people who do play the game, it's way more complicated, but having started D4 and going through it, ARPGs they're a great game, and I can see myself sinking thousands of hours easily into D4. You know, there's so much to do, so much discoverability. Like, if you're not this is the thing that you need to do in D4, especially if you're new. Don't go start looking up guides on like where things are, or like best builds and that. Discover it yourself, because that's the game, right? That's if you're one of these people that go in, look at a guide, and don't discover it for yourself, the game is not worth the money at all, because it's pointless. You're going to be done in like 20-30 hours. What's the point? But if you go in, right, and you discover the builds for yourself, learn how to build your character, go all over the map and find where things are, like the Altars of Lilith, do the events, the dungeons, you know, farming the aspect powers or the codex powers out of the different dungeons, you know, you've easily got hundreds and hundreds of hours of gameplay. And that hundreds of hours, when you put it against the cost of the game, the price, the pound, or let's talk in American terms now, the dollar per hour of entertainment value is phenomenal. That game, right, you could easily get it to be under $1 an hour of entertainment. Easily. In that game. As long as you don't go start looking up things. Discover the game for yourself, like I said. Learn the systems. It's the game Blizzard this time, and I'll give props to Blizzard because of late they've not been great, but this time around in D4 the game teaches you everything you need to know. It's amazing, and everything is so simple. But it's easy for me to say that now I've learned it. But the game taught me that. Nobody on YouTube taught me anything about D4. The game taught me that. The game taught me how to play because I let it. I was being stubborn this time and not succumbing to the hardcore mentality, which I normally have, of going into a game and finding out what the best builds are, specs and stuff like that, and best routes and how to level and stuff like that. And I've just let D4 evolve naturally this time around, and it's been well worth the money. I've sank probably, alright, I've only probably sank 40 or 50 hours in it in a week, but for a guy who works, you know, 12 hours a day, you know, 40 or 50 hours in a week, that's a lot of hours for a video game. And I'm in, what am I now, late 50s in level. You know, that's not too bad. I've completed the campaign. Like, the game's taught me everything that I need to know. Now I just need to start progressing. But I've still got 40-something levels to go to get to 100. But that's still many more hours of content. I've got many more things to discover in the game. Like, so the price and the cost of the game versus that, well worth it. You know, and I highly encourage anyone who likes, like I said, I'm not a story guy, but the story got me, and if it got me and I'm not a story guy, and you like a good video game story, this is right up your street. So what I'm trying to say is just let the game take you on the ride. Don't get brought into this mentality of looking up builds and things like that. Discover it for yourself. Yeah, right. And you're not going to regret it in D4. What an amazing game. Anyway, I've been rattling on for about 40 odd minutes now, which is a lot longer than I intended this video to be. But I just wanted to give my 1 week review. Obviously, I'll probably do a monthly review, right, after I've got into the game a lot more after a month. But I wanted to give a first week review from a complete rookie ARPG player. And hopefully this might help out a lot of people who are on the fence of buying the game, you know, because it is so expensive. So I hope this helps some people out. And, you know, a lot of people might disagree with things that I say, but it is what it is, right? We're all our own people and we all like our own different things. But, yeah, if you've got anything you do disagree with, drop it down in the comments. If you things that you do agree on, or you know, if you want to get my perspective on certain other things of the game that I haven't covered, then feel free, just whack it down in the comments and I'll reply the best I can. And like, comment and subscribe. Cheers guys for listening. Peace.